welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. We're here at Tycon in the Valley in conversation with Shantanu Narayen, the CEO of Adobe. Shantanu, it's good to have you back on CNBC TV 18. Thanks very much for speaking to us. Well, it's been a good start of the year for you at Adobe. Your revenues are up 25% year on year. Business is looking good. What's the year looking like ahead?
Well, firstly, welcome to Silicon Valley. I think this is the second time that we're doing it in the U.S. rather than India.
In India,
to see you. You're right. We had a great first quarter, and I think the transition is behind us. You know, the move from subscription, from perpetual to subscription, and digital marketing also, the new area of growth for us, continues to do well. We continue to see people and businesses all around the world focus on digital disruption and technology. So as long as we continue to execute, it feels like the opportunity is ahead of us.
You know, let me ask you about India, because you've been a frequent visitor there. Any more expansion plans as far as India is concerned, and what
we've actually been growing quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, we have that new facility that's right. Now in Noida as well as Bangalore. And you know, as the company grows, we've actually continued to have disproportionate growth in India. And I think what's always differentiated Adobe in India is we do everything from intellectual property creation all the way to customer satisfaction. But while we don't have numbers that we're sharing because we're in the middle of the year, we continue to grow pretty aggressively in India.
Okay. You know, you're clearly bullish on what I would call the experience economy, and that's what you're betting on at this point in time. What is it going to mean in terms of actionables over the next 12 to 18 months, for instance, and what's the kind of addressable market that you hope to go after?
Well, we say the total addressable market for Adobe is now approximately $48 billion. So it's a huge opportunity. But think of it, you know, you have financial institutions in India, maybe ICICI and others. They're going to completely use mobile to change the experience they deliver for their customers. All of what's happening in retail, where new companies are disrupting the incumbent retail stores. I can go on and on. Media and publishing, right? Your viewership increasingly with LTE wanting to see your show on mobile devices. And so there isn't an industry, and Digital India in terms of the government also wanting to provide citizen-facing services. So, you know, we just look at it and say, if we can deliver a technology platform where the customer is at the center of the experience and reorient how a business thinks about it, every company is going to re-platform their technology stack.
You were talking about the government, and you spent time with Prime Minister Modi when he was here in the Valley. What's your sense about the Startup India mission and the Startup India plan? How confident do you feel about that? What's your sense about where the ecosystem is in India today? And are there companies there that you would like to bet on? I mean, you've been very acquisitive, continue to be aggressive. Are there companies there that you would consider betting on?
Well, I think big picture, the first thing that has certainly happened is that the kind of access to capital and access to intellectual property that used to be uniquely Silicon Valley is now a global phenomenon. So I think the Prime Minister is wise in trying to not just encourage large industries, but to encourage, you know, the creation of new industries. I think mobile is going to represent a huge opportunity, but you know, the startup situation in India, I think, mirrors the startup situation here, where you have a little bit of frothiness at times, you have a little bit of great successes at times, but the genie's out of the bottle. And I think more and more people are going to want to start companies in India because they know a neighbor or a friend or somebody who's been at one of these successful startups. So I'm an optimist.
Acquisitions, possibly?
You know, I think the startup situation in India has focused, when it was first all about services, right? That was the service economy. I think the second set has been more business to consumer, correct? I mean, everything from Ola to Snapdeal to Flipkart. I don't think we've seen as much startup activity
on the product side.
On the product side and business to business.
And that's been a disappointment for you,
Correct. And so as long as, I think, and maybe it's just the phases of evolution. It was services, it was semiconductors, now it's consumer services. If it does become enterprise software, we'll be all in if we find interesting things.
You know, we're going to see a change here in the U.S. The presidential race is going to be an exciting one. What does that mean, going to mean perhaps as far as India is concerned and the relationship between the two countries, specifically technology? I mean, you hear the usual rhetoric around presidential elections on outsourcing and so on and so forth. But do you believe that there could perhaps be a change in case it's Donald Trump in the White House?
Well, I hope whatever change is a change for the positive, because the relationship between the two countries, the affinity for people from India to the US and vice versa, has never been stronger. And if you look at, I think the success of the Indian community in Silicon Valley, hopefully that's something that the US will continue to build on. I hope they aren't, policies that get introduced that impact that. But it feels like the momentum, and with the Prime Minister being as aggressive, the fact that he came to the Valley, I think sends a huge signal of how important he thinks technology is. And, I would say in Silicon Valley, we tend to work around, whatever, innovate around short-term policies might exist. So I'm optimistic, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Shantanu, you were one of the few Indian origin CEOs here in the Valley. Now you have company and plenty of it. There's your classmate from HBS, Satya Nadella at Microsoft. There's Sundar Pichai and a bunch of others as well. What do you think is working? How do you explain this?
Well, first I give tremendous credit actually to the American system, right? Where opportunity is available to, people from all around the world. So I think it's as much a recognition and reflection of the Valley as it is perhaps of the hard work that we have put in. But I think, I was certainly inspired by other Indians who, quote unquote, broke through the, barriers or the ceilings that existed. And hopefully, there are people like us who are then, passing that on as inspiration to others. But I think it's here to stay. I think the fact that, we all went to great schools and, our fluency in English and, the resourcefulness that we had to demonstrate in India in order to get anything done. Maybe there is some benefit to that after all.
Okay, some benefits to the system of jugaad that hopefully we won't have to deal with in the future. But before I let you go, Shantanu, what would you be most concerned about if I were to ask you about the big risk and the big opportunity today? What would those be? How would they stack up?
I think the big opportunity continues to be technology is going to transform industries. Mobile, cloud, social, and big data. It used to be that we'd have one of those tectonic shifts in software. It's unparalleled that we see all four of them coming at the same time. So in terms of an opportunity, without a doubt, that is the biggest opportunity. In terms of the risk, it always is. There's short-sighted policies or systems that get created that prevent this innovation from happening and require even more jugaad and resourcefulness. But it feels like, the momentum is only going to continue. So I'm very optimistic both about the state of what's happening in India and clearly about Silicon Valley. Everybody had written us off a few years ago, and we're back with a bang.
With a bang. Well, good luck to you, Shantanu. As always, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Shireen.
Thanks so
much.
Thank you.